Welcome to my presentation. In this presentation, we shall see how to represent fractions and also see what are the different types of fractions available to us. So, how do we represent a fraction? A fraction represented. Let me write this one here. Representing a fraction. Representing a fraction. If I were to take an example, 1 over 4, like that, in here, the 1 is in the numerator. This number is called the numerator part. This is the numerator, and I'm going to represent it by NR. There is a line which is separating the number in the numerator and the number in the denominator. This line is called a fraction bar, or it is also sometimes called as a fraction line. The number in the denominator, this number is called the denominator. And I'm going to represent that as dr, like that. So therefore, a fraction always has two parts to it, a numerator part to it and a denominator part to it. That is very simple. So now let's look at the types of fractions available to us. Okay, the types of fractions available to us are as follows. Let me write here, types of fractions. There are three main types of fractions we have, and those are as follows. The first one is called a proper fraction. The first one is called a proper fraction. The second one, we'll explain that more in detail after I list out these three types. The second one is called the improper fraction. Improper fraction. And the third one is called a mixed fraction or a mixed number. Mixed fraction, or sometimes also referred to as mixed number. These are the three types which are available to us. So let us look at each one of them in more detail here. So a proper fraction, let me explain what a proper fraction is. Proper fraction. A proper fraction, in a proper fraction, the numerator is less than the denominator. The numerator value here, the numerator value is always less than the denominator value. What do we mean by that? Let me explain this with an example. If I have a number 1 over 2, the numerator is less than the denominator. 1 over 3, the numerator part is less than the denominator part. 3 over 4, the numerator part is less than the denominator part, and so on. So that is how we can understand a proper fraction. In a proper fraction, the numerator is always going to be less than the denominator. Let me try to explain this with a figure. Let us say I have a square like that, and this square has 4 equal parts to it. This is part 1, part 2, part 3, and part 4. And now, if I were to shade 3 portions of this figure like that, we're going to say this is equal to 3 over 4. 3 parts are shaded out of the total of 4 parts. So this 3 parts out of the total of 4 parts can be is a proper fraction because the numerator is less than the denominator. So that's how we can understand it in terms of a figure. The next one we want to understand is what is a improper fraction. So let us try that. An improper fraction, let me write here. An improper fraction, in an improper fraction, the numerator is greater than or equal to the denominator. So that is the definition of that. The numerator value is greater than or equal to the denominator value. Greater than or equal to the denominator value. So the way we can understand this with an example is as follows. 5/2. If we have a number 5/2, 5 is in the numerator and 2 is in the denominator. 5 is greater than 2, therefore it belongs to an improper fraction. Another example is 4/3. 4 is in the numerator, 3 is in the denominator, so therefore this is an improper fraction. 6/5. 6 is in the numerator, 5 is in the denominator, 6 is larger than 5, therefore it is an improper fraction, and so on. We will see a lot of these as we see some more examples. I want to explain this with a figure. Let us say I have two circles like that, and then I'm going to divide these two circles into 4 equal parts like that. And then if I were to come back and then hatch some of these portions, if I were to hatch or shade all the 4 parts of this circle and just 3 parts of the second circle like that, the first circle has 4 parts to it. First circle, the four parts are shaded out of the total of 4 parts, plus the second circle, 3 parts are shaded. 3 parts are shaded out of the total of 4 parts. So therefore, if I were to combine these two, the common denominator is 4. 4 plus 3 is equal to 7/4. 7/4. 7 is in the numerator, 4 is in the denominator, therefore this is an improper fraction. We can visualize improper fractions as shown here. The third type of fraction we want to understand is called a mixed number or a mixed fraction. So we'll see what that is. Mixed fraction or a mixed number. In here, a mixed number is a number greater than 1 with a whole number part to it and a fraction part to it. So it has a whole number to it and a fraction part to it. So in here, let me explain this with an example. 3 and 1/2. It has 3 is a whole number and half is a fraction. So when we combine whole number and a fraction, it is going to be a mixed number. The second example would be 1/1/2. 1 is a whole number, half is a fraction, so when we combine a whole number and a fraction, it is going to be a mixed number. 4 and 2/3. 4 is a whole number, 2/3 is a fraction, and therefore when we combine a whole number and a fraction, it's going to be a mixed number or a mixed fraction. So these are the different types of examples we have. I want to explain with an example here, and in this example, I'm going to take 4 squares like that. 1, 2, 3, and 4. In here, I'm going to shade the first block completely, shade the second block completely, shade the third block completely, and then the fourth block I'm going to shade just half of it. So if I were to come back and then say the first block is completely shaded, plus the second block is completely shaded, the third block is completely shaded, and the fourth block is half shaded. So if I were to put all of these together, I can write this one as 3 and 1/2 is is shaded. Three blocks is completely shaded. Half of the fourth box is shaded, and therefore we can represent this as a mixed number. 3 is a whole number and half is a fraction. So therefore, when we write a whole number and a fraction together, it becomes a mixed number. It becomes a mixed number, and therefore, this is how we can visualize or understand the different types of fractions available to us. In my next presentation, we shall see how to represent fractions on a number line.